about wills. It's time for Law in Our Life, and Hyunju is here in the studio. Hyunju is a lawyer practicing here in Gwangju and also a regular guest. She helps us try to understand the Korean law. Hello, Hyunju.
Hi.
Last week, we were talking about death and wills and things like that, and it was very depressing. And I had to talk about lots of examples, and we're going to continue that today.
Yes.
And I'm going to try not to cry. Let's start. What are we going to do?
Today, I'd like to talk about whether the will is effective as it is written as you wish.
Okay. Last week, we talked about having no will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What was that called again?
Intestate?
Intestate.
Yes.
All
yes.
Right. And there was some kind of, rules about who gets what, depending on how close they were in the family. And actually, you shocked me quite a bit. You told me the default is that if you don't have children, money goes back to the parents.
With you.
Along with the spouse,
yes.
the widowed spouse. And like I said, as far as I knew, in Canada, the laws are different where I'm from. Now, let's keep going. And now we're going to talk about what if we have a will.
Yes. Let's say that the Korean spouse dies with a will that says he will pass all the assets only to the children, excluding the spouse.
Oh, okay.
What can you do about it?
Well, yeah. I mean, is that allowed?
In Korea, we have a special system called 유류분 제도. 유류분 literally means the remaining portion, the reserved portion. So what it implies is that the successor cannot exclude the entitled family member from the inheritance, and if he tries, the law says that there is some reserved portion for the excluded family member.
Oh, okay.
The rationale behind is that the asset is to support the living of the surviving family members. Therefore, there is something remained for each qualified members. So let's get back to our story.
Yeah, give me an example.
Yes. You found out that your spouse drafted a will excluding you from the asset inheritance.
Oh, I see.
But
I must have done something terrible for that to happen.
Yep. So I said that you are entitled for something.
Right, that 유류분.
Yes.
Okay.
So how much share am I entitled to? If the spouse dies without a will, which means intestate, right?
Right.
Yeah, intestate. There is a given share for each entitled member, as I talked last week. So the share by law is 1 for each descendants, like children, 1.5 share for the spouse, and 1 share for the ancestors, like the parents or in-laws of the deceased.
Right. And that was only if there was no children, right?
Yes, they will not have the property will not pass on to the ancestors if there are some children.
Right. If the property can go into the future, into the children, it'll flow that direction.
Yes.
If that direction doesn't exist, it goes backwards back up to the parents. All right, I'm getting kind of a math sense of this.
Yeah.
So what happens if there's this exclusion?
Yes. If the deceased wrote in the will that he will not pass his assets to his wife, then the wife will be entitled for the 유류분, the reserved portion for herself.
Oh.
So if the deceased has 3 children and a wife, but the eldest, so let's make it a bit different. The reserved portion is the half of the legal share.
Oh. All right.
So which means half of 1.5 share for the wife.
Okay.
So let's make it as a story. If the deceased have 3 children and a wife, but the eldest disowned his father, the father may decide not to pass any asset to the eldest, kind of like excluding him.
Right.
However, the eldest is still eligible for his reserved portion, which is half of his legal share. So usually it was 1, right? So half of 1 share will be 0.5 share.
Right.
That will be his share.
Now, I've got a kind of technical math question. The other 0.5 share, like, does that get split among the other kids, or do the kids' other numbers stay the same? And we just divide it into this many shares now?
Usually how it goes is like, if the father excluded one son, so he couldn't get any, and like his one share were divided like 1 to another child, 1 to another child, and 1.5 to the mother.
Okay.
Right? And then the son who was excluded file a lawsuit against the remaining, the surviving family members, saying that I will get my share back,
right?
Which is at least 0.5. So all 3 members should give back that 0.5 share from their own.
From that division.
Yes.
All right. I think you've answered it then. Again, it's kind of technical and mathy, but it is a difference. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is that an easy thing to do? Because it sounds like Dad didn't want son to get that money.
Right. So what are the steps to get your reserved share back?
Yeah.
You can first talk with other family members and try to kind of negotiate with them, because they can anytime give back or give certain portion to the family member. But usually it does not work.
Oh.
So then you can file a lawsuit at the court arguing that you are entitled for the reserved share by law, but the assets are already all distributed to other family members.
Oh, so you have to sue your surviving family after the death? What a mess. Does this happen a lot?
Oh, yeah. As you can imagine, it's quite common family lawsuit in Korea.
Really?
Yeah, because sometimes the father or the mother just favor one child and want to give all the asset to them.
Or I guess one kid was bad and just left.
But
okay.
So even though there is no will, sometimes the surviving family members want to share the asset among certain members, excluding other siblings. Like, for example, you live abroad and the father passes away. The other family members may distribute the remaining assets from the father among themselves without leaving anything for you.
Okay.
So it's not only caused by how the father or the mother drafts the will,
but how the survivors.
Yes.
Wow.
Then still you can file the 유류분 반환 소송, the lawsuit to request return for the reserved share.
Right. But in that case, it sounds like your reserve share should be your full original share because you weren't legally excluded. Like you would be asking for, let's say the parents died. There's 3 kids left.
Oh yeah, then
they exclude one kid who lives in America. So they just say, okay, one share. We're going half. Then the kid from America hears about it and says, well, wait, I want my one share.
Sure. Yeah. So that was my mistake.
Okay, yeah. So it wouldn't be the
half.
The 유류분 there.
Yeah, it's more like 상속분, like the inheritance share.
Right, their normal share.
Yes.
Okay, but anyways, it's still a lawsuit. This is very complicated, but pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a very complex lawsuit. And sometimes the judge try to kind of make a mediation session rather than working just by law.
Sure.
Because it's related to the family members and very emotional thing. So
yeah. Well, and it's tough because also while you're all doing this, you're paying lawyers. Right? The estate's becoming smaller the longer you have this in court.
In Korea, we usually don't pay the lawyers by hours for this kind of lawsuit. So,
yep. Okay, maybe it's not that much. Anything else we should know about this?
Therefore, you should remember that the written will, it's not always executed as they are written, but it may only raise family disputes after the person passes away.
Okay.
Therefore, you may want to check the bottom line or the default of the will drafting and make sure to give at least certain minimum reserved share for each member to avoid any family discord.
Right. Or if you really want to cause trouble, really do a bunch of this stuff. Make them all fight afterwards. I've heard in the past it was the oldest son got a lot of the estate.
Yes.
And I guess that's changed now. I guess now that's not possible.
Later, in the past, like the father gave most of the asset to like the eldest son who lived with the parents.
Right.
And then other siblings like didn't make any arguments about it. They just accepted it.
But if that happened now, then the other siblings could still say, wait, even though we're all written out of the will, we can still claim the 유류분.
Yeah, the reserved share for ours.
All right. It's kind of a good system, actually. I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
All right. And we can check this out on the internet, right?
Sure. You can find this segment in video and my YouTube channel. You can find me by searching Korean Law 101 on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure.